So a classroom coordinator follows the kids from class to class and has the continuity with a bunch of kids to facilitate the social organisation, assist with learning styles and learner types, to assist the kids to mediate amongst themselves, to assist the formation of groups for different activities, and to assist with the interaction between the kids and the teacher. Quite often, for example, the kids are not asking the right questions. So you're assisting the kids to formulate the appropriate questions for the teacher, so the teacher's answers actually respond to the learner style type the child has. So a child might say, how does that work? Or what does that mean? And so on and so forth. But if the teacher just repeats themselves and says it in a certain mode, a certain way of talking, for example, kinesthetically as opposed to visually, then the kid won't understand. So a teacher might say, the classroom coordinator may say, what do you need? Well, Tommy, what do you need? Do you need like a picture? Do you want a picture or something? Do you want a diagram? Do you want an explanation, a verbal? What do you want? Do you want something written? What do you want? And the kids go, well, okay, can I have a picture, please? Do you see? And the teacher goes, draws something, and the kid goes, I get you what you're saying. Do you see what I'm saying? So this kind of, all the skills that we're asking teachers to have and demand, it's kind of tricky to do. So the classroom coordinator assists in that. If you have a whole bunch of teachers and a whole bunch of kids going through all these different subjects, some of them will be responding positively to the kids, giving them activities, different things, and so on and so forth, and buying into the project, as it were. However, there will be a few that won't. You know, old school teachers, old school, bang, and they're the ones that cause a lot of kind of resistance. Just kind of like any school, actually, in any class of kids. And the kids know, you know, if you're teaching a bunch of kids, they know the ones that are like, and you say, right, like I was in a class this week, and I took this class, right, does your teacher play any games with you, any activities or anything like that? And they were like, no. What? And I was like, top set, first year, why not? So I gave them a game. They said, but the teacher won't allow us. Yes, they will. Okay, if you do all your work, at the end of it, you say, look, we've done a lot of our work, and so on and so forth, I think we deserve to do an activity. So in the same way, that if you go into a fairly tough kind of classroom environment, and the teacher kind of expects, you know, just complete flat discipline, if the kids do well, I think they have every right to say, actually, we've done a lot of work, we'd like to do this. If the teacher does not respond positively to that, and doesn't respect this, and I think a lot of these teachers would, they'd be like kind of surprised, and think, okay, you do it, all right? And the kids will self-organise, they'll do their own activity relating to the subject. Or they'll devise one, or something, all right? So that the teacher doesn't actually have to work with groups, doesn't have to do all that. The kids self-organise. If the kids do this, and I've got kids to do tests themselves and so on and so forth, if they can actually self-organise, the teacher just watches, and the teacher begins to trust that the kids can self-organise. And this is any hardliner, old school hardliner. They can see this and they'll learn from this. And they might start modifying how it is that they teach. Of course they'll want, you know, certain kind of classes to be really flat because they have to do a lot of work. And the kids will understand that, will accept that and respect that. And in fact, most kids that come out of school, the ones that they remember are the ones that were really hard on them, fair but hard, right? And the ones that try to do interesting things were like, do you see? Because usually it was disruptive elements that got too much. However, we want a kind of balance. We want the best of both. So when I do classes, I do like 20 minutes solid work. So when you do solid work, it's solid work. It's not like having a bit of chat or letting your mind. No, it means returning constantly to the work. If your friends start talking about something else, no, you're going to concentrate on the work. So they get an idea of what solid work is. And then when we're doing another thing, which is actually interacting with each other, that's a different thing. And they have an idea of this. And all teachers should get an idea about this too, okay? And not get confused as to, oh, they're working, but they're not really, that kind of thing. Because that's what happens. Then we get all these people that are in real life jobs and they're kind of working, but they're not really, and it's kind of inefficient. And what we want is we want to say, when you're working, geez, you're really concentrating on that. And you build up concentration, you know, and so on and so forth. And that's what classroom coordinator does. Instead of having, they're trying to assist individuals to work well so that there is less disaffection. There's less kids going into, you know, at the end of first year, second, third, fourth, just getting really depressed or bored, fighting and struggling and not finding themselves. And the ones that are socially skillful are not allowing themselves, their influence to be effective amongst their peers in the class. You know, they're successful outside, and they're really friendly, and they're really kind of central kids, and they're kind of like really kind of, you know, the in crowd. But that's not managed to influence the classes into going in the right direction. And I think that's what classroom coordinator does. Coordinates a lot of things, centralizes it to the individual, the experience of the individual, so that you see, you don't have, there are some kids that've got, in the school, they've got like a key worker, they've got the guidance teacher, they've got obviously the different teachers, they've got some of them they like, some of them don't. Then they've got the special education needs teachers, some of them which are helpful, some are not to them. And then of course outside of school you might have the parents, you might have social workers, you might have educational psychologists, you might have social workers, you might have a whole, just a huge number of people. And this kid just takes advantage of it. Okay? And what we're saying is that this classroom coordinator facilitates that, so that the kid is effectively embedded in their social group. If that happens well, I think it prevents a lot of problems later. That's basically it. 3 things to check whether this system might work. 1, because it's a subjective thing, it's embedded in the individuals. Therefore, you don't want an objective thing, a list with ticks. Oh, well, we've done this, you've done that, you've done this curriculum. No. What you do is the teacher looking forward to teach them. If they say yes, genuinely, you know they're going to success. Is the kid looking forward to lessons? If the kid says yes, well, there you go, that's a success. If any of those 2, they say no for whatever reason, then you have to pay attention to why that is. You think? And you have to try and sort it out. The third thing is, are they getting the results? And that is an objective thing. Are the kids doing well in the exams? And I believe, okay, if the teachers are looking forward to the classes, the kids are looking forward to the classes, the results will follow. And it's like when you do classes, instead of thinking that exams are different things, exams are not different things. If you perform well in every class, at the end of every class you go, oh, I think I learned something, oh, I worked really hard, oh, and I enjoyed myself, and you have those things. At the end of every class, I made the best use of my time, I'm alive, fantastic. If you do that in every single class, it's like performance. You're performing. Not performing superficially, but you're performing well. If you're performing well every class, every day, you have a day of an exam, they ask you something, oh, you can, and you perform well. The results are something that happen later. They're just the consequence. I used to finish exams, people say, oh, I did pretty well. I knew, because of how I performed, how well I did in the exam. Whereas other kids go, oh, I don't know, oh, I don't want to think about it, I don't want to. Why? Because they didn't know. They hadn't been encouraged. They don't want to. You see, they're afraid. I don't know. Not good. So they want to, at the end of an exam, you say, how well did you do? I did pretty well. I didn't do so well. That's fine. How well did you perform? What were the questions that you managed to answer, and so on and so forth? You should be able to get that based on your actual direct experience. The results, who gives the monkeys? Because if you have done well, the results, they are what they are. The results are what they are. You know, you've just done what you've done. That's it. There is no external objective account to whether you did well or not. Did you do well? Yes or no? And you should know the answer to that. Do you see what I'm saying? So it's the teachers enjoy it, the kids enjoy it, and you get the results. And I think the results follow. There you go. Can I explain all that in front of a bunch of kids? I think I can. And what I'm going to do, if I do another bit of supply work, I'm going to see if, like this last week, I could have easily done this on the last couple of lessons with some of these kids in classes. Easily. And the kids would have been enthralled by it, interested by it, and so on and so forth. So, and I'd be able to get a bit more interaction, a bit better with this dry kind of blah, 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 camera. Okay? So, I hope that explains something about what I do. And, yeah, could you put some kind of comments and things whether this makes sense or anything about my manner? It's quite hyper a bit because I've been sleeping a lot, thinking about things, and it's quite a positive thing. And then maybe I'll do this in class. Okay, what do you think the chances of like a director of education seeing this video, or a video that I do this kind of thing in front of a bunch of kids? Or somebody at some kind of TV channel like BBC Scotland or something or other. Just anybody looking at this video that actually is in the system as well, that goes, yeah. Well, it's not going to happen alone, is it? So. I'm having a little bit of difficulty trying to encourage. I can do this stuff with kids. I can do stuff just about with my colleagues. Anybody higher than that? Very, very, very difficult. Very, very, very difficult. However, it's just about so close to happening, but it just hasn't. So even with the best will, with the best people in the best positions, it hasn't happened. So there is something about structure, institutionalized structure, and inertia of institutions.